Manchester United have had problem after problem this season, but what I'm about to speak about is something that confuses me because it was looking promising beforehand, and Erik Hag changed it, and I don't know why. So, what I'm speaking about, of course, is Manchester United's midfield setup since Casemiro's come back, and this isn't just on Casemiro, although bits of it will be focused on him, but it's about the reasons for playing him where he is and moving Mainoo, who looked really promising deep in his first few fixtures, and why he's so far up the pitch so often. So, first of all, to get some context and some kind of background on what has changed, we're just going to look at the stats initially. So you see here, this is Kobbie Mainoo's touches and passes per game compared to his midfield partner before Casemiro came back from injury in 5 games against Spurs, Wigan, Aston Villa, West Ham, and his debut against Everton. And you see that there's only one game where Kobbie Mainoo's midfield partner got more touches than him, against Aston Villa, and that, I think it was Christian Eriksen, and he only got one more pass in that game. Mainoo was getting more touches and passes than his midfield players because he was the deepest man. He was coming to help with build-up, and he was doing all the things which you expect of that player who's responsible for aiding the build-up. But you see, since Casemiro's come back, it's been almost a flip. Mainoo's barely getting touches. Against Everton, it was 35. Man City, I guess you can say that that's probably a fair few touches considering the possession. But there's not many games where he's dominating the touch map. And you see Casemiro here, he's getting 67 against Wolves, 101 against West Ham, 87 against Everton. It's clear that Casemiro is now that player who is responsible for helping the defenders build up. But where's Kobbie Mainoo? So we'll look at a couple of things that I think that he is responsible for now and the reason that Ten Hag is playing him further forward. So first of all, I think it's just to have maybe a more energetic body in the press, but also in possession of the ball. I think he's making a lot of these almost decoy runs, underlapping runs for the wingers. I think the system right now is built all around the wingers, and I think Ten Hag wants them to get more support, which is potentially why Mainoo is playing further up. Now that might be a good explanation for the Dutchman in terms of how he wants to approach that wing play, but many would argue that it's losing a lot of what Kobbie can do deeper, and we'll look at what Casemiro maybe can't do in those roles that Mainoo was picking up beforehand. So first of all, these are 2 examples against Everton, the most recent game. And Casemiro consistently tries this swooping kind of ball to progress play. But it's first time, and it's it's quite reckless, to be honest, and it's hard to predict whether it will come off. It has come off beforehand, and it's a good pass because, like I said, it's quite unexpected. If it goes through, you might have time and space on the ball as your Bruno Fernandes, as your Marcus Rashford. But in this instance, you see that he's getting pressured. He tries the ball first time. He's not really aware of his surroundings as much as he probably should be. And Everton get the ball back in a very dangerous area, and they probably should have done better there. Later on in the game, and it's the exact same situation that he tries this swooping pass in behind, and it just gets picked up by Branthwaite, the Everton defender, and Casemiro isn't as comfortable when those players are starting to press him. He doesn't really have the abilities to skip past them with the ball, and in terms of passing, he's quite erratic. We all know this. He likes his long balls, which don't always come off. But then it isn't just Casemiro, which is the interesting part. You see, this image here has Christian Eriksen on the pitch. He's come on for Casemiro in a game, and he's very deep. And Kobbie Mainoo, you see highlighted, is still very high up. And I ask why. Because beforehand, before Casemiro came back from injury, Mainoo played alongside Eriksen in some games, and he was the deeper player in that midfield too. So it doesn't seem like it's just Casemiro's presence back from injury, because if you'd think that if he came off, he'd move Kobbie Mainoo deeper and put Christian Eriksen a bit higher. So it's something that I can't explain really why Ten Hag's done it. But Eriksen's not the only one as well. There's Bruno Fernandes is dropping deep, and you see none of these players can really. Maybe Bruno can do it sometimes, but they can't do it as consistently as Mainoo, which may be surprising because he's young. But this instance here is quite laughable, I think, because you see Casemiro is the one out wide. He plays it into a nice pocket for Bruno there, and he's got the option to turn on the ball, maybe look out and pick out Luke Shaw on the wing. Mainoo is in space, as we will speak about in a second as well. Or he could maybe just pass it inside to, I think it's Diego Dallo tucking in. But he just straight away doesn't really look around him and just pings it back to Harry Maguire in defence. And you look, Casemiro is not happy about it because he realised that he made quite a good line splitting pass. Bruno could have turned. Where's Mainoo? He's up there doing nothing because that's not where you want your most comfortable midfielder on the ball to be. Look, you got Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes, who neither of them are known or can really confidently dribble with the ball, pass players. They're both passers, and Mainoo can do that too, but he can bypass the press. And that's exactly what you needed in that situation with Bruno Fernandes. And you see where Mainoo is, that's where Bruno should be. It's confusing, and I don't know why Mainoo is so far up. But let's look back at before Casemiro came back, when Mainoo was playing deep, and just what his role was at that point, and how it differs to what I've just shown you. You see here, of course this is Wigan, so United are expected to have a lot of the ball, but Mainoo's still very deep there, and that was what his role was. He was picking the ball up off of the centre-backs. He was creating a back three, like you see in this one, which is what he done a lot in pre-season as well, which is why it wasn't too surprising to see him play this role, because we saw it in glimpses during pre-season. So he's playing in the back three. What can he do in the press? We all know what he can do in the press, and there's a few examples here where you see just a simple one with a player on his back. Mainoo's not going to try it. He knows when to turn and when not to, and this is something that I mentioned in a previous video, looking back on Mainoo's debut, where he now seems like he knows when to make runs, when to pass simple, and that's something that Casemiro and Bruno just don't do, and they don't really know how to do it under pressure as well. So he plays a simple ball here wide under pressure. There's another instance here where you see him picking the ball up in a deep area. He's got a West Ham player coming towards him. What's he going to do? He plays a simple 1-2, and he escapes the pressure and is able to launch a ball to the flank towards Højlund. That's a simple movement, but I don't think that United have anyone else to do it. And how did he do that move? He started deep. He collected the ball from Luke Shaw, and he was able to push United forward. I'm not saying keep Mainoo deep and keep him there like a defensive midfielder. He needs to start there because he can start United's attacks. But his dribbling ability, he's able to then bypass. You see Declan Rice do it a lot for Arsenal. He starts deep, but his strides quite similar to Mainoo. Maybe he's a bit of a stronger runner, obviously a few years ahead of Mainoo. But that's what his role should be, in my opinion. And this is one that we've all seen before. But this is what Mainoo can do in those positions. Against Everton on his debut, he's got the two strikers closing in. And like I said, he is press resistant. That is his kind of bread and butter, being able to bypass that player easily. He even kind of invites him in because he's confident that he can then bypass him and then play a ball over the top to Garnacho, who almost gets there. But also, it's important to note that this isn't Mainoo's regularity playing those long balls. He often keeps it simple, picks balls between the lines in those kind of deeper areas, and also just circulates the ball, which is what you need. You don't really need constant long balls. Of course, he does one here, but it's not something you see in his game when he's played there so much. So it's a confusing situation, this one, the Manchester United midfield, because I think a lot of people, they saw that Casemiro was coming back from injury. They saw Mainoo was playing very well. But when you put Casemiro back in and you move Mainoo away from his position where he's doing well, it makes it confusing to why you've done it. Because Casemiro's not getting the best out of his game because he's the ball dominant player right now. And that's not what you want him to be. I'm sure that's probably not what he wants to be, ideally. And you got Kobe making off-ball runs, pressing high, which maybe he can do because he's young and he's got the legs. But he's not getting on the ball as much. I go back to this graphic. It's not pretty looking when you see the ability that Mainoo has. And I think something needs to change, because if Ten Hag really does want Champions League football, which looks like a pipe dream right now because of Aston Villa, because of Spurs, where they are right now. But if United really want to end the season strong and forget about results, play good football. If they want to try and play good football and get results, I think you've got to switch this round somehow. Keep Casemiro there, out of possession, because we know that he's better deeper. You want Kobe for those legs, like I said, maybe a little bit further forward. But Casemiro was used to playing that and then moving forward out in possession of the ball, because he played his whole career with Toni Kroos and Luka Modric at Real Madrid, where they were the orchestrators. He didn't really need to be back there, so he moved further forward when Real Madrid were in possession of the ball. So it doesn't make sense to me that you can dismiss that possibility, because Casemiro's done it before. Kobe can do it. I think we all know that he can play that deeper role. And this isn't the question of his long-term future, because I know some people think that he would be better further forward over the long term and maybe not play that deep role. But this season, considering how he started there as well, I think it's a shame that he's moved from that position and he's not getting on the ball as much. We're still seeing him, we're still seeing bright sparks, but I want him to be the main man in that midfield. And I think a lot of people would agree with me. So let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. That is all from me, and I'll see you in the next one.